How do you change the battery on a vehicle like this? In this video, I'll show you step by step what to look for, the tools you need, and how to go about this so you can do it yourself. Let's dive in. The bonnet release lever is located on the driver's side just below the lower dash panel. Then pull the safety latch upwards to release the bonnet. The first step is to disconnect the negative terminal. Why the negative? Stick around as we'll get to this later, but for now, notice we use a 13mm spanner to loosen them. Next, as we remove the positive terminal, notice how the battery tray is slightly smaller than the length of the battery. We can also see that the width of the battery is narrower than a standard size battery, but barely fits in the retaining bracket. If we pull up the battery finder tools on the internet, we'll see the recommended size is a 616. If we compare the dimensions of the recommended size to the one fitted here, they're fairly similar. The electrical specs are also identical, but have a look at the terminals. There's a noticeable difference in size. Let's loosen the retaining bracket using a 10mm socket and investigate what's going on here. From these specifications, it's fair to assume that the 616 was probably the battery that was installed at the factory, since the dimensions fit the battery tray and retaining bracket. But at some point in its lifespan, these terminals were upgraded to the standard size to accommodate a bigger battery. This is not a bad thing, as it opened up possibilities for alternative batteries, but the options are still quite limited. For viewers outside of South Africa, you probably won't see this 3-digit number, but I'll put a link in the description for Varta's battery finder tool, which you can use to find similar information about a battery. Let's finish removing the retaining bracket and look at how to install the new battery. When installing the new battery, make sure to line up the terminals in the correct orientation. In other words, positive with positive and negative with negative. The positive is always larger than the negative if you weren't sure. In this case, it's easier to fit the retaining bracket first before connecting the terminals. It wouldn't have made sense to fit the recommended battery, so we went with the same size. Ideally, you want the battery to fit the whole tray to catch any acid spilling from the battery. This one is still slightly larger though. We can now connect the positive terminal first. Remember, the posts are tapered, so you always want to push the terminal down as far as possible for maximum contact with the battery post. Use a tool like a screwdriver to extend the terminals while pushing it down. Notice how the terminal is almost flush with the battery post for a good connection. We can connect the negative terminal and tighten it. Earlier I mentioned to disconnect the negative terminal first. You might want to watch this video to see why. See you there.